Are often a major selling point at picturesque middle-class neighborhoods out in the suburbs. But do higher property taxes really mean better schools? That's the subject of a new documentary we've been talking about.
I think most people want to believe that their children and their education is being well taken care of.
There is a certain public line that they tell, and then usually there's the truth.
People don't want to know the real truth.
So what is the real truth? Are middle-class children actually some of the most deprived? Lance Izumi is the Director of Education Studies for Pacific Research Institute for Public Policy, is the producer of a new documentary, Not As Good As You Think, Myth of the Middle-Class School, and that's what he's joining us right now from San Francisco. Good morning to you, Lance.
Good morning.
Okay, you know, why is it for years we've thought, okay, bad neighborhood equals bad schools? Because according to your work, some really good neighborhoods have some really lousy schools.
Well, I think that most Americans for years have understood that there are a lot of problems in our schools in the inner city. And so that's why they save money. They try and move out to the suburbs where they believe that the schools are good. And unfortunately, what they fail to do is often look at the testing and achievement results at those schools. And what we found in our research is, for example, in California, you have hundreds and hundreds of schools in these pricey middle-class suburbs where the achievement of the students is actually quite low. Students are failing to achieve at the proficient level in English and mathematics. And so you're having a lot of problems with these students going into college not prepared.
All right, you were also featured in the documentary Waiting for Superman, and your part comes about halfway through the film. Why is it that for instance, the suburbs around New York City, people pay a lot in property tax, and the thinking is, we've been told by real estate agents, you want to live here because we've got really good schools. Why aren't the schools as good as they should be, considering all the money we're spending?
Well, I think part of the reason is because parents in those middle-class suburbs tend to think that because the real estate agent, as you say, has sold them on this neighborhood, claiming that the schools are good, that they then believe that and end up not taking an active interest in really looking into whether the performance of that school matches the rhetoric and the sales job that they've been given. And it turns out, if you look at the performance of middle-class children across this country, for example, on the National Assessment of Educational Progress, amongst fourth graders, non-poor students, a majority of fourth graders in this country perform below proficient on that national examination. Yeah. So I think that what middle-class parents need to do is to go beyond the sales pitch and really look at the performance of their schools to make sure that their children are getting the quality education that mortgage payment is supposed to signify.
Well, here, but how do we fix it? Do you agree with Waiting for Superman's premise that really good schools out there, and there are some, they can fire bad teachers, and that the school union's tenure policy is one of the contributing factors to not working out so well?
Yes, I think Davis Guggenheim was quite right to focus on, who's the director of Waiting for Superman, was quite right to focus on these teacher union contracts. They're one of the big problems when it comes to ensuring the quality of instruction in the classroom. In our research, when we looked at union contracts, for example, in California, we found that many of those contracts restricted the evaluation of teachers. And in fact, in one contract we saw in one middle-class suburb in California, the principal was not allowed to go into a classroom unannounced, and if he did announce that he or she was going to go into the classroom to view what the teacher was doing, he or she was only allowed to be in there for 4 minutes. So I think that it's really important for people to understand that just because they live in a middle-class suburb, that the teacher union contract can be just as restrictive as any contract in a city.
Excellent points. All right. Lance Izumi from the Pacific Research Institute, thank you, sir, for joining us today from San Francisco.
Thank you so much.
All right.